personally, depending on the day, may overwater my green stalk.
What type of soil do I use in my green stalk?
I personally have not been successful, but
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think it matters. It's another beautiful day in Tennessee, and I'm so excited for this video because in this video, I'm going to be answering your top 10 most pressing questions about gardening in a green stalk. But I'm not doing it alone. Today, I have the honor and the privilege of collaborating with another YouTuber that you may already know, Asia from Yellow Urban Homestead. She is based in Virginia. I am based in Tennessee. And together, we're going to do this video and talk about the top 10 answers to the questions we received the most about green stalk. Y'all, Asia and I talked last week, and it's like we had already known each other. So I'm so excited because I love to collaborate. And you know what? You may be in Virginia, you may be in Tennessee. We're both actually in the same zone, in zone 7B. But when we talked, we were collaborating and talking about what questions do you get all the time in your green stalk? What questions do you get about your green stalk? And as we talked, we find that we get the same questions over and over from our audiences. So we thought it'd be great to come together and to do a video just talking about green stalk and all of the common questions that we get. You'll be able to hear my view, her view, and put them both together, and then find yourself somewhere in the middle where you can garden in a green stalk and maybe get some inspiration of things that you hadn't thought about, or figure out, hey, I want to do what they're doing. So I invite you to join in to this conversation, and I cannot wait for you to meet Asia, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear the answers to your top 10 questions about gardening in a green stalk. This may be your first time hearing about green stalk or the first time landing on one of our channels, and you may be asking, what is a green stalk? A green stalk is a vertical gardening system. That is what you see behind me, and I have lots of them. Now, the green stalk comes in different colors, different textures, and different sizes. There's a 3-tier, a 5-tier, and a 7-tier, and you'll see that as we kind of go throughout the video, and you will see all of the beautiful colors that they come in. So I'm pretty sure whatever your favorite color is, it comes in that, or it has come in that, and maybe you missed the boat, but it may come back around. So when it comes to the gardening in the green stalk, again, it's a vertical gardening system. It only takes 2 feet of space. So it is a perfect option if you are gardening in a very small space, in an urban area, in an apartment, a condo, a townhome. If you just have a little patio, you can still get you a green stalk because you only need 2 feet of space. And it's so good because you're gardening up instead of out. And so in these planters, this one right here is the leaf planter. It has 42 pockets. 42 things that you can grow for your family to eat. And then the original has 30 pockets. It is 5 tiers of 6 tiers around each tier. The leaf has 42 pockets. It is 7 tiers, 6 tiers on each level, or 6 pockets on each level. And then in the middle, you see the snow. That is an example of a 3-tier, which is 18 pockets. And so no matter what size you want, what color, what texture, they come in this nice basket weave texture, as well as a nice smooth texture like this. They're beautiful. They're functional. The other thing that I love about growing in a green stalk, or one thing that I want to tell you about Greenstalk, is that it is a family-owned company. They're based in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so the customer service is great. The product is great quality. There's so many different things that you can talk about when it comes to green stalk. And then also they have several accessories just to make your garden more enjoyable, more efficient, and we'll talk through all of those as we get to the question. Right now at the time of this video, I'm actually doing a green stalk giveaway, and the winner is going to receive a 5-tier original green stalk. You get to pick your color and your texture, whatever they have in stock, you are able to pick it. And all you have to do is to click the link below and fill out that form. It's going to take you probably less than 60 seconds. The winner will be announced on Monday, July the 13th. And so definitely go ahead and register to win you a free green stalk and enter the giveaway.
So question number 1, how often do I water my green stalk? I personally, depending on the day, may overwater my green stalk. But the answer to that question is normally I will do a finger test. I do not have a schedule of when I water my green stalks. I do a finger test. So if I put my finger down to like the knuckle and it comes back and it's pretty much dry, I know I need to water my green stalk. I also will turn my green stalks. So if I turn my green stalk and it feels light, that makes me think, should I do a finger test to water? Like I said, I am not on a schedule. I water when I need to, but I definitely, at this point, try to do the finger test to make sure that I know I should be watering. So for me, my answer is I do not have a schedule. I water when my green stalk needs it.
How often do I water my green stalks? Well, in the summertime, I am making sure that they are moist every single day. Now in Tennessee here, for this particular season, we have had a ton of rain, like 40 days and 40 nights of rain. It's been a lot of rain. And so I have not had to intentionally try to water as much as I normally would. But in a given and during the summertime, during a given time period where it's not raining every day, usually in my climate, in my area, I'm having to water every single day. Now, one of the things about green stalk, because it is a container, it is going to dry out more quickly than in the ground. And so when it comes to watering, I'm usually watering every single day. Now for me, I'm usually watering every single day. Now in the fall, or when the temperatures start to kind of die back, let's say like September, where I still may have some summer veggies out here, that I'm probably watering, I would say once every 2 to 3 days. But basically I just make sure that the soil is moist. So when I put my finger in the soil in that top little part, it just rains, so I know that it's moist, but I'm making sure that it's moist. If not, then I'm going ahead and making sure that it stays watered. That is one of the big things when it comes to not just green stalk, but any container. They're going to dry out a lot quicker, and so you got to make sure that you stay on top of the watering. What type of soil do I use in my green stalks? I get this question all the time. Now, Greenstalk, the company, recommends that you use Happy Frog, which is a perfect blend that they know works well in their containers. Now, for me, I don't have access to Happy Frog pretty readily in my local area. I would have to drive maybe an hour or so to get it, and they only have it at specified times. So a lot of times I don't use Happy Frog just because I don't have access to it. But for me, I use a premium soil mix, and my preferred soil is Coast of Maine if I'm not using Happy Frog. The other secondary mix that I will use is Bacto. Both Bacto and Coast of Maine are premium mixes. And what you really want is you want your soil to be light, loose, fluffy. You don't want to use a soil that is compacted. You don't want to use a garden soil, but you want to use a potting soil that is light and fluffy and that has, you know, some movement in it. Now, if you cannot afford one of those premium potting soils, here's my suggestion. I suggest that you get the best soil that your money can buy. And if it is dense and compact and you know that it's not premium, then I would add worm castings to it. I would add some compost, and you may even add some perlite to kind of help with aeration and to make sure that the plants have enough elasticity or enough space. You want to make sure the plants have enough of good soil to grow in. If it's hard and compact, it's going to be hard for them to grow. Remember, you're dealing with a very defined space. So in the original green stalk, the pocket depths are 10 inches versus in the leaf, it is 7 inches. And so that's not a lot of space. Although it is effective and productive, you want to make sure that you have the best soil that your money can buy. And if you can't, then add some stuff to it to make sure that you help with the soil mixture.
What type of soil do I use in my green stalks? So I found soil locally, and it's called Burger BM6. It is similar to Pro Mix, but it is not Pro Mix. But when you go to my local feed and seed, the sign says Pro Mix. So I use a soil called Burger BM6. It comes in a pretty big bag. I think it's like 3-point-some cubic feet, and I can use that to fill my green stalk, and I don't have to buy several bags, and that's why I like using Burger BM6. I only got to get 1 bag of soil to my backyard, and I only got to dump 1 bag of soil, and I don't have to worry about a bunch of different bags. However, I have used Happy Frog, and I want to say maybe 1 or 2, and it may just be 1. This one right here, I like that too. Seems to be working just fine. And the cost for me is cheaper to buy Burger BM6 than it is to buy Happy Frog. Although I never have factored in the amendments, like any fertilizers or any bone meal, blood meal that I put in, but just the cost of the soil itself is more economical for me to buy Burger BM6. I have been able to find it locally, but I do believe I've seen it online as well. Do I plant in my green stalks all year round? I do, actually. I started growing in green stalks last year, and then I decided I'm gonna grow for fall and through winter, spring, and now we're back to summer. it worked out. Now, we had a winter like I don't think we've ever had before, and the soil stayed moist because it stayed under ice for a very long time. And when that ice decided to melt, the soil got really moist. And I didn't see a difference in what happened in my green stalks from what happened in my garden beds. So with that being the case, yes, I grow 365 days a year in mine. They do have covers, they have netting. I personally have not used any of that. I have heard that they're very good. Barbara actually said that they are very good quality, so I might try them. But if you're not new here, you already know I am not a coverer. But if it is a simple way to cover, maybe I'll give that a try. But yes, I grow 365 days a year. And this year, I'm actually wanting to grow a lot of broccoli. And I'm going to grow broccoli mostly in my main garden. And I'm going to use the green stalks for most of my leafy green vegetables, maybe some kohlrabi too. But that's how I'm going to grow enough for me to preserve for a year. I want to grow a year's worth of broccoli, y'all. So answer that question, yes, I grow in mine all year long.
Do I plant in my green stalks all year round? No, I don't. Now, I know that many people do, and you absolutely can, but I have just chosen not to. Now, my first 2 years of gardening, I did garden my green stalks all year round, but I have a lot of gardening space. I am fortunate and blessed that I have many different gardening spaces. I have a hot tunnel, I have an outside garden, and I have a garden in my backyard. And so in the fall and winter, I primarily use my hot tunnel to grow because it's easy. I have season extension and I can grow all the food that my family needs for the fall and winter in that one space. Now, in the fall, I will come in and plant in some leafy greens like lettuce and spinach and kale and things like that so that I can come out of my house literally and just grab if I'm in the kitchen. But usually after about October, November, I kind of let those things go. I don't try to keep them. I don't try to protect them from the frost. And so I would say I garden my green stalks in the spring, summer, and fall, but not really in the winter, although you absolutely can. They do have a frost cover that they sell that you can garden in the winter. And again, the only reason I don't is just because I have other spaces that I can have everything in one space in my hot tunnel. But you absolutely can grow in your green stalk. But for me, I'm a summer green stalk girl and a little bit of the fall. Now, does it matter which tier you plant your vegetables in the green stalk? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think it matters. I think it really depends on what preference you have and what you want it to look like. Now, I have read comments where some people say they put like vining things near the bottom versus at the top. And I think that kind of makes sense. But you can see here, y'all, sometimes in the garden, and I see my green stalks as a more creative way for me to be. I'm this much creative. And so when I get a chance to just, play around, I usually do it in my green stalks. So you can see I have some good old cinnamon basil growing way tall up here. And again, I've pruned it and I can prune it some more, but it's growing way tall up here. And maybe that would look better if it was like more in the middle, so to speak. But then I have tomatoes growing here hanging down. I have some nasturtiums here hanging down. Would they be better served at the bottom? Maybe. But to me, I don't think it matters which tier you use because it's going to grow. So if it's an aesthetic thing for you, then yes, absolutely make it as beautiful with the tiers as you want. You can have your lower vining stuff on the bottom, but then the thing about using the bottom is that it's going to get on the ground. But if you have it on the top, it's going to drape down and it may crowd out other things. So one of the things when I was talking to Asia, she was talking about her nasturtiums were hanging all down, kind of like mine are, which I've pruned them some. But because they're near the top, they could be creating shade for a crop below it that I don't want to have shade. Now, let's say I was growing lettuce down here below my nasturtium, and I purposely put the nasturtium right here so that it could cascade over and grow shade, then that might be a strategy. But I can tell you, y'all, I wasn't real strategic. This is not strategy. This is just playing. This is just me putting stuff in my green stalk. And it's every, I got stuff on every tier. Like, look, y'all, I got a zinnia growing up at the top. Like wild, way up at the top. She probably should be somewhere in the middle so I can see her better. But does it matter which tier? It don't matter in terms of growing. But in case if you want it to look a certain way, then yeah, plant your tiers to where they look the best for you.
So does it matter which tier you plant things in? Does it matter? I'm gonna say no. Is it more beneficial to pay attention to what tier you plant certain things in depending on what else you're growing? I would say yes. If you are mixing your types of plants, if you are doing a full pepper green stalk, I would say no, it does not matter. A full tomato green stalk, it does not matter. But let's say, and I'm gonna use myself for instance, this year I did this beautiful arrangement in my evergreen green stalk. It was beautiful, right? And so each plant went down each tier. So nasturtiums was my biggest issue. And when I say issue, it's just that they shaded out my beans, but they were beautiful. They were a beautiful show in that green stalk. Anyway, I took them and so I planted one here, one in the next tier, but it was going around the green stalk. Nasturtiums get very bushy, right? And so beans do too, but the bushiness of my nasturtiums was way more than my beans bushiness. And with that being the case, the nasturtiums shaded out my beans. So for me, that's my story. And last year, things like me planting the peppers high up with the basil under it, that didn't work because the pepper got bushier. I would say yes, if you're mixing different vegetables. If you're just doing one vegetable to a green stalk, then I don't think that it makes a difference one way or the other. Also, putting out there the way that I planted my potatoes. So I put my potatoes on tiers 3 and 4, and I put celery up under them. My whole thought of that was the potatoes would shade the celery. However, it shaded it to a point that it did not grow well. So yes, I think that you have to think, just like if you are planting in a garden bed, you have to think what's gonna get taller, what's gonna get bushier, what should go in the front, what should go in the back. I think it's the same thing with green stalks if you're planting different plants into one green stalk. So can you grow onions in a green stalk? You absolutely can. I have seen several different green stalk growers grow onions in their green stalk. I personally have not been successful, but have not been successful in my garden because I get allium leaf miner. So hopefully Barbara has more information for you because I don't have a lot.
Can I grow onions in a green stalk? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can. How do I know? Because I just did it. So last year was the first year that I planted onions in my green stalk. And I'll be honest, I've had my green stalks I got my first green stalk, I think 5 years ago. And I never even considered putting onions in there because I just figured that you couldn't. But one of my subscribers, or many of my subscribers, talked about that they could do onions in their green stalk. So last year I tried it for the first time. I had some leftover onions. It was late in the season and they grew okay, but not the best. But I didn't really do what I was supposed to do. I mean, come on, let's be for real. As gardeners, sometimes we doing the best that we can. We doing the best that we can. But this past year, I did do onions in my green stalk. I did them on time. And I literally just harvested my onions from my green stalk. And I got 3 pounds of onions from my green stalk. 3 pounds. So, I mean, that's not major. But to me, that's 3 pounds of onions I didn't have to buy. Right? And so I would say for the most part, and let me walk you down here where I had my onions. I grew my onions in here, which is the beautiful black. This color is discontinued, but this is the original. And so I definitely use the bigger pockets for the onions because onions are going to bulb up. It's a bulb or a root crop. And so you want to make sure that you have enough space. So I would definitely, if you're growing onions, I would use the original. So I had all of this filled with onions for the most part, and I had some deal in between other pockets on some of the tiers. And most of my onions were, I would say, small to medium. So they were not the biggest onions that I grew, but I would say 25% of them were regular size onions. So that gave me hope that I can grow onions. And so what I want to do next year is make sure that I stay on top of the fertilization. And so because onions are a root crop, they need phosphorus in order to bulb up. And so I did fertilize with a phosphorus heavy fertilizer, but because we had so much rain, I did not fertilize as often as I would have liked to. But I was still proud that I got 3 pounds of onions from one green stalk. And so out of 30 pockets, I probably had, I would say 22 of the 30 pockets full of onions, and I got 3 pounds. So yes, you can grow onions in a Greenstalk. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video with Asia and I talking through the answers to your most pressing Greenstalk garden questions. I cannot wait to hear and meet you in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if there's a question that we didn't answer, and maybe we can pop into the comments and answer your question. I would invite you to go ahead and subscribe to Asia's channel. If you're not subscribed over there, you will love her energy, her spirit over at Yellow Urban Homestead. And thank you so much for watching. Remember, y'all, gardening is a journey. Let's do it together. I'll see you next time, friend.